Hey there, Tarantula Tribe. Andrew here. I think it's about time that I demonstrate exactly how to perform the bag method of rehousing a tarantula. The bag method is a really secure way to rehouse a tarantula. Perhaps you're a new keeper and just a little bit apprehensive about rehousing tarantulas in general, or perhaps your tarantula is bolty, fast, defensive, all of the above, and you just want to transfer that tarantula to their new enclosure in a more secure way. So the bag method is a really great option. It's going to be a lot less stressful for you and for your tarantula than potentially having an escape and potentially harming your tarantula. It's a really secure and safe way to rehouse a tarantula. So let's get started. First of all, you're going to want to gather all of your supplies for this rehouse before you start anything. So I have my new enclosure all set up. I have my tarantula that needs to be rehoused. I have a bag. We'll talk a little bit about what kind of bag is going to be most appropriate. I usually have some kind of hair tie. This is a really big hair tie, which can be really good for larger enclosures that you're transferring the tarantula from. I could probably use something a bit smaller for this specific enclosure, but this I can wrap it around twice and it'll do just fine. The other thing that you're always going to want to have on hand are some catch cups. This is a special catch cup that has a hole in the top so that I can put a paintbrush through and convince the tarantula to move along. A paintbrush. You are going to need a paintbrush. And you're going to want to prep your bag in such a way that it has a very small hole in the corner. And I'll show you exactly what I mean. So, I put a hole kind of right there, and it's really just large enough that the paintbrush fits through. But it creates a little bit of a seal that the tarantula can't get out through the opening, through the space, right? Very little space for the tarantula. And actually the paintbrush only goes so far in until it gets kind of tight. The bag, really, it should be somewhat of a flexible bag, but not a flimsy bag. So you don't want to use one of those old style shopping bags that you get from the grocery store, not in California, but back in the day you'd have those really thin plastic bags. You don't want the bag to be opaque. You want it to be totally transparent. You want the bag to be able to fit nicely over the previous enclosure because that's how we're going to be using it. It has to be able to fit over there. You don't really want it to have too much slack, kind of like this one does. You do want it to be a little bit tighter on the old enclosure, but this will work. You also don't want it to be that really hard cello type of plastic that is crinkly and not very flexible. You really do want the bag to be somewhat flexible. So this is perfect. I have my new enclosure set up, and the old enclosure is right here with the tarantula. The tarantula that I'm going to be rehousing is a Psalmopoeus Cambridgei, which is a Trinidad Chevron Tarantula. This tarantula was already a little bit snug in this enclosure, and it just molted. Now it's really big. It jumped in size with this molt to be much bigger, so it really does need to be rehoused like pronto. I've got a beverage because that's always lovely. It's not a bad idea to have tongs on hand, but I'm probably not going to be using these for this project. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is take the bag and put it over the enclosure where it opens. You can open the enclosure, but for a lot of people, that's the scary part, right? So what I'm going to show you is the way to do this in a way that's very, very secure. So the first thing that you're going to do, let's get a shot of the tarantula. Do you guys want to see who is in there? All right, that tarantula is definitely too big for this enclosure, right? Needs to be in a new home. Shame on me. I should have transferred it a month ago, maybe longer. Let's see. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put the bag over the old enclosure. Then I'm going to take my elastic and kind of scrunch it up there. And I'm going to take the elastic and secure it This elastic is a little bit too big for my needs here, but it'll work. I need to triple wrap it. Let's see if I can. Oh, I need my hand to be the other way. Okay, perfect. Alrighty. So now you can see that the bag is secured to the old enclosure with the tarantula inside. The next thing that you're going to do is take your paintbrush, poke it in, just so that hole is plugged, just in case the tarantula can get out of the hole. This tarantula can't get out of that hole. That hole is way too small for this tarantula. You want there to be a little bit of slack, and that's going to help you to remove the lid. Okay, so I'm actually going to slide the lid completely off of the old enclosure. I might need to give myself a little more slack, and I will totally remove the lid. This is going to help me to access the tarantula. Come on, there you go. Okay. I like to tuck it kind of alongside the enclosure. Okay, put it right next to it. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use the handle of the paintbrush to coax the tarantula up into one of the corners of the bag. So, tarantula is right there, and I'm going to put gentle pressure, coaxing the tarantula up and out of their old enclosure. This could take a second. You just want to be gentle with your tarantula. You don't want to poke and prod your tarantula. You really just want to put a little bit of guiding pressure, consistent guiding pressure on your tarantula. To coax them up and out. This guy does not want to leave. I'm sure that you will enjoy your new home. You'll have much more room. Come on. This could take a moment. Tarantula keeping is about patience. So be patient with your tarantula. If you have to, reposition yourself. Now this tarantula is going behind the cork bark and trying to find a safe place to hang out. I'm just using this paintbrush. Where did you go? Sometimes it helps to get them into the corner where they can't really, okay, here we go, where they can't really get behind the cork bark on the opposite side. I don't know if you guys can see this. You don't want them to go down. You do want them to go up. So coax your tarantula up into the bag. Okay. So all the way up into the corner where the tarantula will feel secure. Whoop. And I'll make the tarantula terrified by and it's okay if they're in the corner by the... Okay. That's the important part here. Let's take a little closer look. Tarantula is up on the plastic. Okay? And it's kind of up in the top part of the bag in the corner. That's perfect. That's exactly where I want the tarantula to hang out. Okay. So, without disturbing the tarantula all that much, or any more than you already need to, I'm going to get my new enclosure ready to go. And I like to leave the lid somewhat attached. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so the tarantula cannot go back down. So I'm going to start to pinch off the bag. You can even twist it, is actually a good thing to do. Allowing for good space for the tarantula to hang out in the top part of the bag. That's great. So I've pinched off. Watch your fingers, I don't know. Can a tarantula bite you through the plastic? It's possible, I guess. If you can feel the vibrations, you might know where your fingers are. I like to use the paintbrush to kind of crimp it, and I'll show you how I do that in a moment. Okay, so the next step is going to be to remove the rubber band. So I gently slide it down. Okay. And off of the enclosure. And this is where it is important to make sure that you have the bag somewhat crimped. All right. Old enclosure, tarantula in a bag. I'm going to move that aside because I'm kind of limited on space. Not going to need that rubber band anymore. Not going to need the old enclosure. Alrighty. Now, you can see it's very well controlled of the setup. I'm going to take my new enclosure, and you're going to put the opening of the bag inside the new enclosure. Okay, just like that. Okay, I like to close the lid just enough that if the tarantula goes down and out of the bag, that it doesn't just immediately go up and out through the opening. Okay. So, close the lid a little bit on the bag, but I still need the tarantula to go down and into the enclosure. So now using the paintbrush, straighten things out just a little bit. Sorry, little tarantula. Okay, I actually like to put more of the bag into the enclosure. Excellent. Oh, I think I forgot to put, one moment. So yeah, if you do have to set it aside, you can use the paintbrush to kind of pinch it off. Cute little tarantula water bowl. That is what I use for water bowls for my tarantulas. Just caps. I work with supplements and body care products. And, you know, just some wet substrate is fine, but having a little bottle cap where the tarantula can have a little reservoir of water is a nice thing to offer. Okay. And I'll fill it up with water after so that it doesn't cause a problem. Okay. All right, back to the tarantula. So we're going to put the bag opening side into the enclosure as far as is pretty comfortable. And I'm going to close the enclosure. I have it closed about 3/4 of the way. Now you want to open it up a little bit. You want to give the tarantula a path to get down into the enclosure. Now using the paintbrush, I'm going to coax the tarantula down into the part of the bag that's already inside the enclosure. The tarantula is going to make their way down and through. So the tarantula crossed the threshold, and I immediately can pinch off the bag using the lid. And now, the tarantula is basically inside the enclosure already. But now I have to get the bag out. So I'm going to keep the lid pinched on the bag. Maybe that's a little too much. And I'm going to slowly pull the bag out of the enclosure. And be careful not to provide too much of a gap in any one spot where the tarantula could escape from the enclosure. Now the tarantula is still in the bag. The tarantula feels somewhat secure inside of that bag. But as I pull it out, it feels that there's kind of a pinch point. Now the tarantula is out and in the enclosure. Perfect. Pull the bag out, close the enclosure, and we're done. And that's how you perform the bag method. It's pretty easy. Now I'll give the tarantula a little bit of water. This tarantula is going to be so much happier in this nice roomy enclosure. I'll kind of moisten the substrate as well. And this tarantula, this enclosure has a little bit of a drainage layer, which is perfect because this tarantula does like it a little bit more humid. And that's it. I hope that that helps you rehouse your tarantulas who are bolty, defensive, and please like and subscribe if this helped you. Enjoy your tarantulas. Take good care of them. Thank you. Bye.